Hey everybody, welcome back to this episode live with David Drebin. David, it's great to connect with you. I've been looking forward to this interview. You have probably one of the coolest websites I've seen in a long time. It's so visually appealing, which is what we're going to talk about today, and how your business and what you do as far as making products that people want that they may not even know they want. Your website and your description of what you do reminded me of a recent episode and a book I've read by Rick Rubin, who is just masterful music producer.
Love him.
You love him. I love him. Who talks about, he doesn't give people what they want. He gives people what they don't even know they want. And it's amazing. And all of your work made me feel Rick Rubin-ish.
What was this book called, by the way?
His book is called The Creative. Hold on, I'm going to tell you. It's called
I've had
The Creative.
many people send me this too, by the way, on Rick Rubin. I haven't read it yet, but it's on my list. By the way, can you hear my music, or should I turn it down? I just realized my music. I have this really zenned out music that
it's all good. It's called The Creative Act, A Way of Being. It's great. And I'll send you, I don't know if you saw his episode on 60 Minutes. I'll send it to you if you haven't. It's outstanding.
Please do. He's one of my all-time favorites, but I don't know enough about him. But I love his look. I love his vibe.
He's incredible. He's incredible. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about business, and we're going to talk about everything that you do. I'm a business coach. I work with people all over the globe who are successful and stuck. I get them unstuck. So I always like to start off a little bit with talking about, in business, where has been a recent stuck of yours, and how have you evolved from that?
Like where I've been stuck?
Yeah.
That's a really great question. I find sometimes that my emotions can overpower my mind, and I do whatever I can to have my mind overpower my emotions. And that's my constant battle every single day. And so many people's battles who are just alive and trying to make something of their lives. The battle between your mind and your emotions.
Yeah. It's interesting. I work with anywhere from salespeople to managers, owners of companies, to C-level execs of all shapes and sizes. And I hear that a lot. And one of the things I talk to my clients about and work with them on, we don't have to go into too much detail, is, the difference between two people who feel exactly how you feel. And I felt that way. And I know a lot of people who do, are how quickly you can get back to center, right? How quickly you can kind of really get back to center. I find that breath is always the best way to do it. And, so how do you get back to center?
That's a really great question. I think about getting back to center literally all day long. So what I do to get back to center is I make sure that I have a very good diet, and I drink a lot of water. I'm constantly drinking water. I make sure that I have 8 to 10 hours sleep a night, and I try to keep all madness away from me in my life. Now, I expect madness in business, but I don't want any madness in my personal life at all. It's hard enough to win the war in the world. I don't want to have a war at home and a war in the world. So I like to keep my house very, very zenned out. I listen to very meditative music. My favorite composer is Harold Budd. I listen to Harold Budd. I listen to Brian Eno. It's tranquil music, exercise, sleep, hydration, and deep breathing too. When I can remember to do that. That's the key for me to get back to center.
I love it. You know what I listen to a lot is Hans Zimmer. I love him, the composer. He does a lot of the motion pictures, specifically the music to Gladiator. I love it. Yeah.
I'm writing that down. I'm writing that down right now. No, because these are two great nuggets. Hans Zimmer. Love it.
Hans Zimmer. And I'll send you some stuff on Hans as well. He's outstanding. All right, so let's talk about you. I asked you right before we went on, I said, are you an artist? Are you a photographer? Are you both? And you said to me, that's a really interesting question, right? And so as somebody in the creative space, how do you define what you do when earlier you had shared you make products that people want, but then you're messaging to share with them? I don't want to put words in your mouth. So they may not even know they want it until you kind of put it out there. So talk a little bit about kind of your creative process from, beginning to wherever you want to take it.
Okay, there's a lot there. So basically, I see myself as an entrepreneur. So I don't ever introduce myself as an artist unless you've seen my work in context. And I don't introduce myself as an entrepreneur because what I do is so niche. There's so few people doing what I do at the level that I'm doing it at. But I didn't even realize when I was getting into this, what I was really even doing. It just sort of evolved into being a combination of an artist and an entrepreneur. And I thought, wow, I'm an entrepreneur. I make limited edition product, and I find the right manufacturers for my products, and then I find the right context and the right distributors. So it's a combination of managing manufacturers, managing distributors, and creating content nonstop and products that I believe people really want all over the world.
Yeah, I love that. I want to get back and talk about limited edition, but I just want to share Think Community. David has 25 plus years of experience. He's worked with iconic brands like Mercedes, MTV, Nike, Coca-Cola, Davidoff, Steve Jobs. I mean, you during your first show ever in 2004, Elton John bought half of your pieces, which helped your career take off. I want to talk about that. But when you talk about limited editions, let's talk about the power of scarcity in business, right? Because, you could have limited editions, you could have, unlimited editions. And so talk about the power of limited, not only for the consumer, but also for maybe your own creativity.
If you have an unlimited amount of artwork available, then anybody can have it. So if you make a very small edition, people feel more special because it's a limited edition. It's just common sense.
Yeah.
That's it. It's like Rolex. I love going into Rolex stores and they're like this, we have no watches available. And I really learned a lot from Rolex when it comes to marketing.
Yeah.
Every Rolex store that you go into, I like to go into Rolex, not to buy a Rolex, but to study the marketing. And I've learned a lot from Rolex from a marketing standpoint. Any Rolex store you go into in the world, nothing's available.
Yeah.
How brilliant is that?
It's brilliant. I was actually just in Florida last year and I walked into a Rolex store, and they said the exact same thing. They said, we don't have any watches available. And it was that it made me want one more.
And I'll tell you something else. I'm not going to pressure you. I'm going to make you feel great. But this piece is sold out and there's only one left. Business.
Yeah.
That's my business.
Yeah. I love that. Let's talk about how you've established your brand, right? So, you're in New York City years ago, you're a waiter, and now you're one of the most famous photographers and artpreneurs in the world. So, that's a big law of proximity for somebody who's maybe starting out, but talk about some of maybe the key lessons looking back that you've extracted from your to-date journey.
If I would have known then, when I first started, what I know now, I underestimated the power of consistency and the grind all day, every day with no one watching. I'm in a seemingly very glamorous business, but there's really nothing glamorous about my business. And a lot of people get into it for the glamour, but the glamour and the parties were never what was important to me. I just wanted to make my imagination come to life because I didn't understand myself. And by making art, it made me able to understand my thoughts better. I did this for myself first. And then I had this accidental business that I had to catch up to through a lot of failure and a lot of rejection, but I never rejected myself. And that's been the key to my success is I've always bet on myself and I bet on the dream and the focus. And I bet on certain people that disappointed me and other people who've come through for me that I never would have bet on. So it's about betting on yourself and betting on your purpose.
I love everything you just said. I could talk to you about it for 3 hours, and it's a theme that's been very relevant for even today. I actually watched a Hans Zimmer interview on 60 Minutes this morning, and when I was working out, it was on, and he talks about that he played piano when he was a kid for 2 weeks and quit because the piano teacher was just trying to teach him chords, and he needed a piano teacher to take what he was imagining in his head and put it into his fingers for the keys. And I felt the same way, which is when I started my business coaching business over 8 years ago, is I had this, I could imagine everything that I wanted, and I couldn't get it any other way but investing in myself and starting my own company. So I love everything you just shared. Think community. It's so important to kind of tap into your inner knowing of what's in you. So my question to you, David, is how would you recommend people tap into their inner knowing?
The most important thing is to spend a lot of time alone listening to your own voice and not other people's voices. I feel like other people's voices have distracted so many people into thinking that they should do things based on what other people think they should do. And I have always been extremely rebellious, but never a rebel to my own inner voice.
Yeah.
So at an early age, I just was so confused about who I was that I had to, photographs were a way for me to understand my own thoughts, right? Let me give you an example.
Yeah, please.
This is my camera that I used in the late 90s. It's a film camera. This right here is a film camera. And it's really amazing because when I bought this camera, I thought, wow, this is going to allow me to express my imagination. So I put the camera to my face, just like this, and I would find subjects that would allow me to take my mind and express it through my vision, through my lens, with what interested me in subject matter. This is the most powerful way to express your imagination. For me, other people, it's the guitar, drums, it's cooking, it's writing, it's singing. I found for me, this made me feel so unbelievably special when I saw this in the late 90s that I had to have this. And I'll never forget buying this without ever taking a photograph and thinking, wow, this is going to be the camera that allows me to express my imagination and show me who I really am through who you are.
Yeah.
This is art to me. This is pure art to me. Pure art.
I love it. I love it. Think community. We're talking so much right now about, finding your inner voice, getting rid of the distraction of others, finding what is artful to you. I talk a lot on the show, David, and I talk a lot with my clients about, there's art and there's science, and then there's the middle of both of those. And you got to be able to tap into your own soul to know what your right path is. I read a book probably at least 30 years ago now that by Gary Zukav. It was called The Seat of the Soul. And the book, it was a life changer for me because
I'm writing it down. What's your name?
It was called The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav. And one of the things that he talked about was the ideal personality is when the personality ends and the soul begins and nobody knows it. And I remember feeling very out of alignment, and it was kind of a mantra, if you will, that helped me kind of get onto my path, because when you are in alignment, everything looks, smells, et cetera, is different. And so how when it comes to alignment, right, and it comes to connecting with your, you're talking a lot about how you connect with yourself to bring the art out of you, of what you're imagining. How do you think of even the energy of the person who's purchasing your work as that's kind of flowing through, or do you not?
Well, I don't sell my work directly. I work with galleries all over the world, and I realized at a very early stage that third-party validation was more important than first-party validation. Mm-hmm. So I started working with people who would represent me as opposed to me representing myself. And I never thought about their commission. A lot of people think, but I don't want to give that much away. And that's a big mistake. I don't mind sharing my pie with people. If they can provide something for me that I can't provide for myself, that's great for branding and perception and building the dream together.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And when did you realize that? I mean, that's amazing. That the third party, because you're right. Because, I always thought when I'm talking to people like for sales or marketing or things, I always say, well, share things through the client's eyes, not yours, because then they're hearing they're putting themselves in the story, and it's somebody else's opinion.
What sounds better to you? Me saying, "Hi, I'm David Drebin, I'm great," or a gallery saying, "We represent David Drebin. We're in the heart of New York City. We're in the heart of Berlin. We're in the heart of London. We're in the heart of Paris, and we love David Drebin." What is more power? Me saying I'm great or other people saying that I'm great? And I watch artists talk about themselves, and they're very narcissistic and very ego-driven, and they're not willing to share the pie. I have a pie, and I love to share my pie, and I'm always thinking what I can do for others before I'm thinking what others can do for me. And that's been a huge part of my success, are the alliances and partnerships that I built all over the world.
Yeah. I love it. This is amazing. Talk to me a little bit about, I want to have you back on the show, but tell me a little bit about the story about you, Elton John, and how he helped your career.
So I was working as a commercial photographer, and I was a service that people could hire me, and they'd hire me and then they'd pay me and they'd be done for me. And I thought to myself, this is a terrible business, because great business is about repeat business. I go to Starbucks every single day. And I'm like, wow, they got me every single day. I wanted to build a business that was about repeat business and not one night stands. I had an exhibition, a group show at a gallery in Los Angeles called Fahey Klein. And the director told me that Elton John walked in, saw my work on the wall, and bought many pieces of my work. And that moment for me, I felt external validation when I always had my own internal validation. But that combination was the beginning of me thinking to myself, this could be a great business.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I have so many things I want to talk to you about, but we're at the end, but I'd like to have you back again. But as we finish kind of today, I want to do a quick speed round with you, David. What's a book, a TED Talk, or an article that's had the biggest impact on you?
Wow. Right off the top of my mind, I love the author Alain de Botton. He has a school called the School of Life based in London, and I love all of their books. I love their Instagram page, the School of Life, and his books have been a huge, huge influence for my way of thinking.
Good. I'm going to check those out. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
Be yourself, because everyone else is taken.
I love it. Last question. Finish this sentence. One thing everybody can do to tap into their own inner self and inner voice is?
Quit listening to outside voices. Listen to that quiet voice when it's silent. Your own voice.
I love it. Think community. We talk a lot about business, and what I love about this podcast is, as a business coach, I work with people who are successful all over the globe and are stuck, and I get them unstuck. What I love about this podcast, my favorite thing, is that I get to have guests from all over the world who are so interesting and can provide insight to get you unstuck. And so many times it's just that one little thing, that one little nugget of somebody saying something you've maybe heard 100 times that gets you unstuck into the next level, your next 1%, which I think is so great, because I talk about thinking big, David, and thinking big is about doing small things on a consistent basis that compound over time to get to your big. And one of the first things, if we reverse engineer that more, is getting to your own inner knowing, your own inner peace, and aligning yourself with what you with what you know you want to do. And David, the way you put it is making your making your I can't read my handwriting, your images or what you were imagining come to life. So think community, I challenge you, whatever you're imagining, how are you going to make it come to life? David, where can people connect with you and learn more?
My Instagram is David Drebin. I like to entertain people and inspire them and provide value. And my website, daviddrebin, DREBIN.com. And I have a very playful TikTok. It's all about having fun and good vibes and great energy. And that's daviddrebin.com on TikTok.
I love it. David, stay on and think community. If I can help you, jondwoskin.com. David, stay on for just a second. Thanks, everybody. This was David. This was great. I loved every second of it. I appreciate your insight, your wisdom. It's so simple. It's complicated, but think community. Getting to simple can take a little bit more time. Don't complicate things. Have fun, David. I love this conversation. Thanks a ton.